Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and today we are checking out RPG Maker, and we're checking it out because there is a new one. Now, RPG Maker has been around for a very long time. There's actually 27 years now, I believe it's been, according to Wikipedia, and they've gone through every naming convention out there. We were doing numbers, 97, 2000, 2003, then we went into XP, and we've got Ace, we've got MV, and today we now have MZ. Why? I don't know. I think they just randomly throw a couple letters or numbers behind each name, and that's where we're at. But here you can see RPG Maker in action. You can actually download it. Windows only, unfortunately. I do not know if this works under Wine, but there is a 20-day fully functioning free trial that you can check it out, and that is what you are seeing right here. This is the map editing view. We're not going to go into a ton of depth here. First off, I don't really know this version that well. I haven't used RPG Maker in quite a bit of time, but what you will notice, if I come in here, notice we've got the green land there. We got beach automatically shows up around our maps. The size of the landmass increases as we include it in here. So they're implementing something like Wang tiles or auto tiling functionality into their map. Their mapping system does work quite well. It is really intuitive and straightforward. On top of that, there is a new multi-tier layering of it, so you can have multiple tiers on your map. Again, that was a feature that used to be here. You can also do multi-tiles right here. As you can see, it comes with quite a bit of content to get you going. And one of the things about RPG Maker games is they have been around forever. So there are an absolute ton of DLC content packs you can get, and there's where you kind of really shine with something like RPG Maker is if perhaps you're not particularly that talented or experienced from the programming side, or you kind of want an all-in-one experience, or you're not an artist and you don't have access to an artist. This one kind of can fill you from all of the sides. You can get a ton of art out there, and the programming experience is pretty point and clicky. From a perspective of programming, we're going to switch over here down to the events mode, and logic is generally done using events. This is the programming system. It's a fairly straightforward thing, but we're not going to get into it, but you can trigger off events by hitting a place on a map or when certain things happen. And there's also more advanced options when you come into plugins. Now, the language behind RPG Maker products changed from year to year to year. It used to be Ruby. I think it was Lua for a little while. I'm not 100% certain on that one. Now it is JavaScript. It's actually been JavaScript for a couple of versions in a row now, so at least that part has stayed pretty consistent. And in a nutshell, this is kind of it. There's a ton of tools that are built in here. You've got a comprehensive database, so you've got things like, character classes, weapons, armors, enemies, troops, so on, so that you can define. You got animations in here you can create, and they're all stored in your database. Now, what you're going to find is everything here is kind of defined towards either top-down or side-view JRPG-style games. If you want to move outside of that realm, you're kind of on your own, to be honest. But here's where you can see that all the different tile sets we saw earlier on, they're defined here. You can define how you can walk through them for passage. You can have things be a ladder or a bush or so on. And that's all defined in your database. So nice, comprehensive, straightforward way to store things. You've got some sound tools in here. And then one of the areas that got some new love here is you have this new character generator. You got new palette options, and you got some ability to bring in your own sprite work, so you can bring in, you create your own characters here as well. So you can use this guy to quickly create characters, character sprites, character portraits, and you've got some additional palette controls in this version for populating your world. Again, if what you're seeing here isn't the style of game you want to create, this is not the engine for you. But if you're trying to create that JRPG style of game, there's a reason why RPG Maker has been around for 27 years, and half of the JRPG style games you see on Steam, they're made using this. And there are probably some of them were made in just a few days. It's that kind of an engine. You can do quite a bit in a very short period of time. So, in a nutshell, that is RPG Maker MZ. Not going into a whole lot of details about it. Again, I haven't really used this guy in a number of years. We're going to head on over to their website where we can learn a little bit more about this version. As you can see, free trial version is available for download. It comes in about 400 to 500 megabytes in size. It is available for Windows only, unfortunately. And you're going to come up here. It's available at rpgmakerweb.com. I will, of course, just link that in the linked article down below. So we're going to skim through here, look at some of the highlight features. Now, their way of doing things basically is they described what's in here. So there's a map editor. We saw that in action, but the new stuff is down below. So now we have layer functions have returned. So those were available in RPG Maker XP. I'm making use of the 4 levels of layers. You can make edits that exclude one particular layer and realize more complex constructions. Also included a function that determines layers automatically, so you can still manipulate maps in the same manner that you did in MV. Map trees can be rearranged, and you can now save images at the same size. Character creator, that's what we saw in action really quickly there. It's got a couple new features, including Adjusting component positioning. So by adding an offset feature to the character generation function, we've made it possible to adjust the placement of components. So I think that'd be like weapons and things like that, but I might be a little off on what they're saying here. And add new color palettes. So beyond the existing color palettes, we saw a handful of them right there when I was in this. So you got a set of color palettes here, there. You can now add palettes of your choosing and customize the color of hair and clothing even more. A bunch of new assets were included. Again, this is one of those areas where they really shine. So this is actually a copy and paste from this earlier description here. So there's a lot of things to fix in the release notes. So I don't know what they're saying when they're saying that there's new character resources, because again, this is a copy and paste from above. Included X types, we got a lot of this as well. X types of character resources, added full body drawings, and they've also included X types of different resources. So I'm assuming the front page is going to get a little bit of an update. So the database got an update as well, including a new battle system. So as I mentioned earlier on, it's either like a front view or side view battle systems. They've also installed time-based battles, new elements to the turn-based system. We've broadened the ways in which battles can be enjoyed. Test play features a test play function that makes it very easy to check the workings of your game while you are creating it. There is no need to deploy the game to another platform each time you want to test it. Events got some love, specifically more powerful and extensive event commands through the addition of elements including control characters for text display, picture movement settings, and status determination for buttons used during conditional branching. We've augmented and expanded event commands, and since that's the way that game logic is actually done, that's obviously quite important. And a preview was added for movement route settings. When setting up events, now you can check movement routes using a preview. And animations got some love. This is actually kind of neat. There's new particle effects that are built in. They're using Effekseer. And Effekseer is a project, it's a really cool particle effects system, the creation system. I actually did a video on that. I will link the Effekseer video. I've actually done 2 videos on it. You can now use Effekseer's particle systems in here directly inside of RPG Maker, so that's kind of a cool thing that they've done. Plugins, we've got revamped plugin commands. It's now possible to select plugin name and command name from a pull-down menu, and plugin management has been improved. You now be able to add distributor URLs on plugin registration screens, switch plugins on and off on the list, and read plugin warning messages that appear. Makes it much easier to play your games. UI Makeover for smartphones, so that games can be played more easily on smartphones. We've made improvements to the UI, and autosave functions that save slots separate to sales. I imagine that's what's supposed to be save data related to gameplay. And that's it. We're going, as I mentioned earlier on, it is unfortunately Windows only, but as you can see by the required specs, it doesn't require a lot. Basically, it requires, this actually looks like an Intel integrated GPU would work just fine, 8 gigs of RAM, and an i3, and Windows 8.1 or higher, and it looks like, I would say, a monitor, and that you're good to go with this guy. So if you are interested in getting RPG Maker, it is available on their own shop and on Steam. Now, unfortunately, their shop is in US currency, so see here, it's available at $71.99, and then if we go to Steam, it's a different price. We'll see that in just a sec, but I want to point something out before we move on. RPG Maker never retires their old products. They keep selling them for years and years and years, and this is getting confusing. Because right now, you can get RPG Maker MZ, MV, VX Ace, VX, XP 2003, and then their other projects. And I think they probably still sell the earlier versions as well. It's kind of getting a little insane, and they might want to trim that back just a little bit at some point in time. But as I mentioned, it is also up on Steam. The good news is there is right now a 90% off sale for Deca Games. The bad news is, of course, that RPG Maker MZ is not part of that. In fact, it is $82.79 Canadian. So I'm guessing that's about $70 US, currently 10% off. So it looks like you're getting about the same pricing. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, there is a ton of content pack out there. These are specific to MZ, though. Oh, no, that's an MV right there. We've got some character packs already available, some particle effects, and so on. And as I mentioned earlier on, they're now using the Effekseer particle system tool built in. I've done some videos on that. You want to check that out. There's a 100% free open source project. So if you just want to do particle systems and you want no interest in RPG Maker, do check that out because it's some really cool stuff. So anyways, that is RPG Maker. Again, it has been around forever. You know what? I'm not really that into these kind of games. And we don't have a ton of really great reviews so far, but this is the part that I would probably have to agree with. There's not a lot new here. This is a a hard sell in a way, because it just feels a lot like it's funny. One of their primary features that they talk about is actually that they brought back a feature from XP, and I don't know. There should be continuous improvement between each version instead of just changing or making things better. But the package itself, there is a legion of people that absolutely swear by the RPG Maker series. Is there enough here to really justify it? I think this kind of says it all, to be honest. But it'd be interesting to see where this goes in time. I don't know. I don't know what to say. And going through what's new there, it doesn't sound like a full release to me, to be honest. It sounds more like a patch. But if you don't already have MV, MZ is definitely where you want to come in, because it's, you know, MV plus some new features. But is it a worthwhile upgrade otherwise? That's hard to say. Let me know what you think. Comments down below, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.